In one of the most dangerous neighborhoods of New York, in the shadows of skyscrapers, a love blooms in the narrow and dark alleys. Emily and Jake are two young people holding on to each other in the midst of this dark world. What keeps them together is not just love, but also their strong faith in life. Emily's life has been shaped by the scent of dough since she was a child. She dreams of one day opening her own bakery, making the recipes her grandmother taught her. Working in a small bakery, Emily prepares sweet treats with her flour-covered hands for Jake, leaving little notes to brighten his day. Jake, on the other hand, forgets all the weight of life when he hears Emily's laughter. With her, he feels at peace, and for the first time, he discovers what it means to belong to someone. Though Jake seems tough on the outside, he becomes a completely different person by Emily's side. When he holds her delicate hands, all his anger fades away. For Jake, Emily is not just a girlfriend, but his greatest support in life. That's why he does everything to protect her from anything. Although the neighborhood they live in is dangerous, Emily's smile lights up Jake's world. As they walk side by side in the evenings, Jake slips her cold hands into his pockets. "When you're cold, just hug me. I'll always keep you warm," he says. Emily leans her head on his shoulder, closes her eyes, and wishes this moment would never end. For them, the world is beautiful as long as they are together. Both of them have big dreams. While Emily dreams of opening her own bakery, Jake looks for ways to give her a happy life. They don't have much money, they don't own big things, but they have each other. Despite all the challenges life throws at them, they work together to achieve their dreams. So, when the wedding preparations began, both of their eyes sparkled with joy. Jake had made a small but heartfelt marriage proposal, and Emily, in tears, had said yes. Despite the dangers around them, they were preparing to build a home together. Ignoring the dark paths life might take them down, they were holding on to their love. However, fate was about to put this love to a very different test. As the wedding preparations progressed quickly, Emily and Jake were savoring their happiness. But peace in New York's most dangerous streets was always as fragile as glass. Gangs, smugglers, and the shadows of the criminal world lurked in the alleys. And one night, these dark shadows would pull Emily into their depths. After a day working at the bakery, Emily was walking the streets to meet Jake. The weather was cold, and there weren't many people around. As she turned the corner, a car suddenly approached her. The doors opened, and men in black grabbed her by the arms. Emily tried to scream, but one of them covered her mouth. Fear filled her eyes. Before she could comprehend what was happening, she found herself inside a dark car. Jake was waiting for Emily. Hours passed, but she hadn't arrived. Her phone wasn't answering. A sense of dread fell over him. He stepped into the streets, searching for her at every corner. But there was no trace of Emily. That night, Jake's world would change forever. Since the day she was kidnapped, Emily had been fighting to survive in the cruel world of the gang. The first days were filled with fear and despair, but the spark of hope inside her hadn't died. She thought she could deceive them, trying to earn their trust by pretending to obey. But these men were merciless. Emily's every move was watched. Every act of disobedience was severely punished. As the days passed, Emily began to understand the hierarchy within the gang. She learned who was weak, who was stronger, and who was less ruthless. She was memorizing every detail. Maybe she could use this knowledge to plan an escape. One night, she noticed that Marcus, the leader of the gang, was drunk. She tried to take his keys, but she was caught. That night, they taught her a harsh lesson. She now knew that escaping wouldn't be easy, but Emily wouldn't give up. Instead of waiting for Jake to find her, she would find her own way out. Slowly, she began to make plans. Small details, weak points. She hoped for the moment when she could act, knowing that the road to freedom could only be opened with courage. Emily had accepted that escape was impossible. In the terrifying world of the gang, every move she made was watched, every step she took questioned. With each passing day, her hope shrank, and her body and soul slowly gave in. The gang members' cruelty, Marcus's intimidating power, and the torment they subjected her to made her struggle for freedom seem meaningless. At some point, all that remained was the will to survive, nothing else. But Jake's love for her helped Emily remain, a light in the darkness. Jake believed, no matter what, he would find her. As Emily thought of Jake, the spark of hope inside her flickered again. But no matter how hard she tried, she realized there was no way out within the gang. No matter how much she resisted, the shadow of danger was always upon her. Jake saving her was now nothing more than a dream. Jake had tried every way possible to find Emily. In the dark corners of the neighborhood, deep within the gang's territories, he searched tirelessly. Every night, he replayed the moment she disappeared in his mind, and the emptiness inside him grew larger. He had lost the most precious thing in his life, and with each passing day, this loss created a deep wound in his soul. But one day, the traces came together. He was taking the final step to find where Emily was. Jake, with stealthy steps, approached the gang's headquarters, carefully progressing at every corner. His determination to save Emily made him stronger with every passing second. Breaking through the gang's protective walls, he reached the door of the room where Emily was held. But at that moment, he noticed something. The angry voice of Marcus, the gang leader, came from the room where Emily was. As Jake tried to open the door, Marcus's voice suddenly grew tense. At that moment, a wave of fear washed over Emily. Jake had gotten closer, but unfortunately, the gang members had set a trap for him. They had tied Emily up somewhere and were telling her what to do. Jake soon came face to face with Marcus's cold gaze. "You can't save her, Jake," said Marcus, touching Emily's neck with his hands. "This will be your end." Emily's eyes were filled with fear and love. As she looked at Jake, there was hope in her eyes, but also despair. At that moment, the gang leader decided to mercilessly kill Emily in front of Jake. Jake's connection to the world was severed. Everything suddenly went dark and collapsed. The last look he saw in her eyes was a part of Emily's soul. As Emily's body fell cold to the ground, it left a deep scar in Jake's heart. At that moment, he saw the peace on the face of the woman he loved just before her last breath. But that peace had burned in his heart. Emily's death shattered Jake's heart. Inside him was a great void and indescribable pain. He had been willing to do anything for Emily, but in an instant, she had lost everything. His pain merged with the desire for revenge. Jake's soul had quickly darkened after losing Emily. Now, his only wish was to destroy the gang, to extract bitter revenge for Emily's death. Jake swiftly set his revenge plan into motion. He turned his war against the gang into a fight for survival. One by one, he hunted down and killed the gang members. With every step, he became more determined to erase the terrifying look of Marcus's smile. When he found the gang leader, he showed him the deep pain in his eyes. Jake looked at Marcus one last time. "You touched her. Now I will do the same to you," he said. In the end, the gang leader and all the members fell, one by one. After everything, Jake was left alone with blood on his hands, standing right across from where Emily had died. He had nothing left to lose. As he carried out his purpose of killing them all, the void inside him deepened. Emily's absence was so strong that it would not allow him to feel her presence. But at that moment, Jake realized that by taking revenge, he would cause Emily even more pain. After losing her, he realized there was nothing left to do. As he took his final step, Jake remembered the bridge, Emily's favorite place. There, he thought of the moment he had last seen her. Everything around him had gone dark, but he felt Emily. He took a final breath, then closed his eyes, and let himself fall into a world where he would be with Emily. When they held hands once again, both their souls found peace together. Nothing in the world could separate them anymore. Their love had merged with time and death. This was the eternity of pain and love. And there, on that bridge, their story came to an end.